introduction about our today's guest. He's someone very special who is joining with us all the way from the United States. Designing and planning the most elegant, luxurious wedding around the world is his specialty. And since I have witnessed his work from the front row seat while I was working on production for E-Factor in Jaipur, I was at awe with his perfection, with the finesse and class he brings in terms of creating experiences for the clients and the guests. He can convert a traditional Indian venue into a mesmerizing celebration that everyone can remember for a lifetime. He was recently featured on a cover page of the influential magazine where he gave an exclusive on how he always finds light in the dark. He has made regular appearances on the most beloved talk shows around the world, the Oprah Winfrey show and the DeGeneres show. He has been profiled and quoted in many periodicals, including the New York Times, People, Architectural Digest, Reader's Digest, to name a few. He established his company where he said, "All dreams come true, Los Angeles," and he expanded to New York, Las Vegas, or everywhere the special occasion takes him to. Please help me welcome the lifestyle guru, the television personality, author, and an exceptional event designer, but above all, a beautiful soul, Colin Cowie.
Very kind of you. Thank you. What a lovely introduction, Shreya. And
Thank you so much. I'm glad you like it.
I do remember very well being very, very hot in Jaipur and doing back-to-back events and making magic. It was a very exciting time for me and a fun experience. A little different from what we usually do, but always the same ingredients, right?
Right. So, Colin, not taking much of your time and everyone's time here, let's go on the first question. So there is a major inspiration of all of us behind your journey moving from South Africa to Los Angeles. Tell me something about your inspiration and what led you to get into an event and wedding industry.
It's interesting because I grew up in Central Africa in Zambia. I was educated in South Africa, and at the height of apartheid in the mid-80s, I didn't think there would be a big or a bright, shiny future, and I didn't believe in the political system. I thought it was very unfair, and I didn't want to spend my hardest working years in an uncertain future. So I thought, where in the world could I go where the language is similar, the weather is similar? And it's funny, you know, we had black and white television in Zambia where I was born, and I used to love watching I Love Lucy, and there was the big Hollywood sign. And I always said to myself from the age of 4 years on, I want to go to Hollywood. And believe it or not, that's why they say your dreams always come true. If you believe in something strongly, you can make it happen. And with $400 in 1985, on the 16th of September, I arrived with one suitcase, one well-cut suit, an omnipresent suntan, and very big dreams. It was an incredible experience for me because having worked under apartheid, under those circumstances, all of a sudden being able to work in Los Angeles, the capital of the movie industry in the world, where anything you could dream, anything you could come up with, you could make or create or find a place to get someone to do it for you. So I was like a kid in a candy store. And I started off very humbly, working at a catering company, watching what they were doing and who they called for the rentals and where they got the service from. And 6 weeks later, I started my own business.
Wow.
And I started doing small dinner parties. I got in the car in the morning. I went to the market. I bought the flowers. I bought the food. I chopped, sliced, diced, peeled, and 10 people became 20 people, became 30 people. I got staff, became 100 people. And then I started planning not just the food, but also I became the party planner. And this was a time our industry was very, very young. I mean, the party plan in those days was usually the husband or the boss's social secretary who put a guest list together. She printed a beautiful invitation, called the caterer and the band, and that was a party. And I started covering the swimming pools up and having all these incredible things that we started to do and really created a very, very, very advanced form of our industry. And, I mean, I think back now, it's 35 years since I started out, and I've enjoyed the most incredible journey. I started in Los Angeles, and then a magazine by the name of InStyle was starting out, and they wanted me to be a contributing editor because I had access to all the celebrities to book for the covers. So I started contributing to the magazine. I started to do morning show television, and then I was asked to write my very first book, Everyday Elegance with Colin Cowie, which was an entertaining book. And then I did a second book after that. Then I was asked to do a television show, and I had 5 seasons on We and Romance Classics, which was a very exciting time for me. I took the show all over the world. And then I started contributing to the CBS Early Show. I started offices in New York, and I started to design product and do licensing arrangements. And when I think about it now, it's been the most unbelievable journey. I never stopped for one moment. And as with everything in life, life is a series of ups and downs and crests and troughs. So I've weathered several storms, the economic crash of the late 80s, 9/11, the big economic crash in 2010, and now COVID. Oh my God, what a challenge. And as resilient and as strong as I am, I must say this put me to the test more than anything in my life before. But I've learned so much about my business, our business, about relationships, about why we're in this situation and how we're going to get out of this situation, and the importance of being nimble and being able to pivot and out of the dark find a new future or find a new beginning or a new opportunity.
Wow, that's an inspiration. And I think when I saw you working in Jaipur, I was at a complete awe. The way you work, the way you walk, talk, and work, I think exceptional.
Well, I think to be a good leader, you have to be able to take charge in a respectful way. You need to lead your team. I don't believe in shouting ever. You never saw me shout. I'm the first person to pick up and carry something. So I always believe by leading by example. But, when you're running an events business like this, it's a tremendous amount of pressure and responsibility. You don't ever want to start a conversation with "I'm sorry." So we're always thinking ahead. And it was interesting for me. I've never worked so hard in my life because the way of doing things in India is a little different to how we do things in America. But at the end of the day, we both work towards the exact same results.
Wow, lovely. So the current situation has forced us to adapt to the changes, and I guess people are getting comfortable as well with the intimate weddings. So do you feel that it is going to be a major challenge for us moving further, since we are all used to doing weddings and even in a magnificent fashion?
Well, I think that, we need to dig a couple of steps deeper to find out really what has happened to our industry. I think our industry and the travel industry have been hit the hardest. In the United States, we have 12 million people out of jobs right now.
Oh,
and so many businesses have closed down. When you think about it, from March onwards, almost no income in 2020, and everything moved to 2021. So if your business wasn't in a healthy situation, you were pretty vulnerable. So, it's forced us to become better businessmen than ever. So along the journey, I think we've figured out how to cut our expenses, how to do more with less, how to become a whole lot smarter so we can get through this and we can get to the other side. I believe that, the wedding business will come back first because love never goes out of style. Love doesn't wait for anyone. So, we have a big wedding, not a big wedding, we have a very small wedding this weekend in Southampton. It was going to be 250 people in November in London, and then it was going to be next spring for 350 people in New York. And then the bride and groom just decided they wanted to get married now. So we're doing a wedding for 27 people, but with all the bells and whistles, it's like minus another 150 guests basically. And I think what a lot of people are doing now is marry now and party later. So they'll have a small, beautiful ceremony now, and then next summer, next fall, have a big blowout party with the wedding cake and have all their friends to be able to enjoy it. And I think it's a smart way to advise people to do things, because the idea of the sit-down dinner that's socially distanced for 100 people, where you've got 6 feet between one another, doesn't really equate to why we got into this business in the first place. We love to party, and part of partying is being intimate with your friends and being able to talk and to share drinks and whatever. Clearly, we have to find a safer way to do that. And so I think that our events will be a little bit more humble and will be a little quieter until such time as there is a vaccine, or we can find safer ways to be able to entertain one another. But I think it's also an important time to use this time smartly and to figure out, what can you do to stay in touch with your customers? One of the things we did, we went through all of our top clients and customers, and some people we sent a jigsaw puzzle of the favorite event that we did with them. Some people we sent coasters with all different pictures and images of their events on them. Some people we sent playlists of music. We made beautiful masks with our brand inside for black tie, black silk for the men, and beautiful silver and gold for the ladies. So I think there's ways to stay in touch with your clients on a regular basis, because when things come back, you want them to call you first. I think also to use your time wisely and maybe learn a new skill set. Maybe you can learn to draw in CAD. Maybe you can find a new computer system that can make your business a bit more efficient. But I think use the time wisely, so when we come back stronger.
I absolutely hope the vaccines come out fast and we come back stronger. So tell me something, now that I know you're going to travel the weekend. So what was the one thing that you really missed in the time right now?
The thing I missed right now is putting on a tuxedo in black tie and partying and hugging my friends. That's what I miss the most.
Oh, I think all of us miss that, for sure.
But it'll come back, everything will come back.
We will come back, yes.
I think things come back differently, and I think that we, as globally, I cannot think of an event globally where we all had the same common denominator, where we were all forced to do exactly the same thing at the same time. Certainly not in my lifetime. So I figure, we have to be ready for a new world and a new way of doing business. And a lot of businesses are being cleaned out right now. And I think that the entire business community globally is being challenged to figure out, how do we stay in the game? How do we be smarter than ever before? And how do we make good on the opportunity? And I think the other thing is that to use your skill sets. I was speaking with some other friends in India yesterday, and how they're dealing with, the tourism board and figuring how they can provide their services there. So instead of just working with the clients and waiting for the phone to ring, now's the time to go out and to look for opportunity. So and I believe pivoting is very important. So while I'm very dedicated to my jobs in 2021, I've also started a whole new business called Thrive Hospitality. And we're working with hospitality providers who, when they come back, they want to have the best COVID protocols. They want to have the best banqueting. They want to have the best programming. So I'm using my party planning skills and I'm parlaying them to the hospitality industry. So I've found ways to create other sources of revenue and income streams while using the same talents, just by being smart and packaging it differently.
True. I think it's all about being smart and finding something new that you can do apart from the skills you have in the times like this.
And being able to leverage the brand and being able to leverage the skill set and make yourself extremely helpful to someone that wouldn't think of using this before. And I kind of created this category in a way, because I spoke to developers and said, you have the developer, you've got architects, you've got interior designers. Okay, we would like to become the programming. We'd like to be that vocabulary between all these departments to make sure that it comes alive with the right experiences. Because when you think about it, every time we create a wedding, an event, or we bring people together with what you smell, touch, taste, see, and hear, we create an experience. That experience usually comes down the next morning, right? So this is the way to parlay what we've learned and to work with hospitality providers to create ongoing experience.
True, very true. I think I couldn't agree more on this. So, going further, what innovation or novelty we should bring to our way of working, considering such situations in future as well?
I didn't understand it. Say again,
what
please?
Kind of innovation or novelty we should bring into our way of working? Because I believe the SOPs are going to be in place when we talk about weddings and events. Now people are going to be more cautious, and there are things which are going to come into existence. We believe we accept it or not after COVID.
I think part of this whole coming back stage is very interesting. So I have to tell you, I've never been able to do more with less right now. So this is the smallest team that I've ever worked with, but it's probably the most productive team that I've worked with. And the last 6-7 months have really taught me to be as efficient as possible, to reduce my overhead as much as possible, to really run my best business. And so I'm doing things personally that I didn't do before, that I handed off to assistants to do. I have a better sense of value. And I think I'm, at the end of this, I'm a far better and a savvier businessman. So now when we look, what are the things we need to do to get back in the game, right? I think there's a couple of stages. First of all, we need to create the right working environment for our teams to come back to work. You know, many of them don't want to travel in public transportation because it puts them at risk, right? So I think we've also learned that not everybody has to be in the office Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So I think flexible hours of working is a smart way to move forward. Like maybe you work, and we've figured out millennials are more productive working at home 2 days a week with a good assignment than being in a shared office. So what we're doing is like Mondays and Fridays, you work from home, right? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we do different groups of people come into a smaller office than what we used to have. So we need to make sure that we can create a safe working environment for our teams first. That's number one. Number two, we need to educate the teams on what are the new coronavirus protocols. What do we do when we get waiters out on the floor? What are they being educated and told to say? The last one thing you want is somebody saying the wrong thing and alarming all the guests, right? What is the vocabulary that we use? How are we going to interact with them? And then we need to look, number three, at the product, right? What does our product look like today? I know in most of the Indian weddings, you have buffets, right? And in America, we don't think we're ever going to have a buffet again. So we're thinking that there'll be food stations, right, that are covered with a glass sneeze guard, and the chef is there cooking a la minute for you one at a time. I think this might be challenging in India. We have weddings for 2,000 to 2,500 people, but we love a challenge because it's going to make us more creative. So instead of seeing food sitting out there for 3 hours waiting for people to eat, I think you'll end up with twice as many chefs cooking right there in front of you and serving as we go along. So I think we need to find out now what are the different ways in which we can make people comfortable, because this is what we need to do, point 1, 2, and 3, right? Then we need to look at the clients, right, who are coming back. I think there's 3 categories of clients. There's the first, who, like us, are eager to go out. We're eager to engage again. We want to make sure that we can participate in life in a meaningful way without jeopardizing ourselves or our health. So it's social distancing and wearing masks, et cetera, and making sure that that's very well policed and adhered to. And I think one of the big problems that we're experiencing in the United States is that the government and the local governments have shut everything down to the degree where we're reaching a point of almost no return economically with a lot of the industries that are out there that are suffering very badly. I think we should all be given permission to go back to business and make it the business owner's responsibility to ensure that all the coronavirus protocols for safety are being adhered to. Otherwise, they lose their licenses. So I think we have to jumpstart that way to get our businesses back up and running again. That's the first one. So there's those of us who want to go out. Group 2 are looking to see what Group 1 do. So if Group 1 has a good, safe experience, and we're sharing on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter that we had a great time, we went to this particular hotel, it was very safe, we felt that we were entertained with confidence and with style, that's Group 2. Group 3 are not going anywhere. They're sitting at home waiting for a vaccine. Okay, so I think that's kind of like a snapshot of what we need to do and then what the clients need to do. And, everyone's asking us, so that clients saying, we want all the waiters tested. We want to make sure that all the staff have got gloves and masks. I think it's a two-way street. It's also our responsibility as event business owners to make sure that the clients are doing exactly the same thing, that their guests are tested, that their guests are safe, so that both parties create a safe environment for one another to cohabit together. And I know we're doing things now where we've got people that can come and do tests the day before or testing the day of and getting results the day of. So it's being built into some parties. I mean, there are some people in New Jersey, you can have a party up to 500 people if it's outdoors. In New York, I think it's 25 right now. It's right across the river. You can see it from here. But then again, they've been able to make sure everybody's tested, so everyone has a safe environment to work in the next day. So I think in each country, in each state, we're at a different state of how we're going to return. But I think we're looking to figure out, what's the smartest way to do it, where we can continue our lives with confidence and with safety.
True. So I think it is also about convincing our clients well that it's safer to go out and take precautions and party and celebrate life, right?
Yes, because that's what we want to do. And, once again, there are those of us, there's two parties. There's those who are not wearing masks, they're not social distancing, they're basically spreading the virus, they're ignoring what they're being told to do. And that's why you've got these flare-ups in different hotspots in South Beach, Miami, New Jersey. In a lot of our hotter climates, we're finding the same thing again. People sitting inside in air-conditioned areas versus being outside. So I think that's it. And then on the other hand, there's those of us who are doing all the right things. We're washing their hands all the time. We're wearing masks. We're social distancing. We're being respectful of everybody else. And I believe if we all do this collectively, we'll be able to get through this together and get business back as soon as possible.
I agree. So where do you feel we should focus on in terms of working together and collaborating? Do we need some shift in the dynamic of the team building? And how would we change our standard approach?
I think it's very important that we collaborate, and we collaborate also with our competitors. From the very beginning of this, from the middle of March, we started a Monday Zoom call with 20 of my competitors who are also my friends, so we could share best business practices and we could share what's happening with one another. So come together as a community and figure out what you can do collectively. You also have to understand that because so many people have laid off so many people in their businesses, it's a trickle-down effect all the way from the top down. So, while we went from this many staff to this many staff, so is the local rental company, right? So is the local equipment company. So we need to make sure that they have the right amount of staff when things do come back to be able to service our events. Like your biggest rental companies, I'm sure with no work, they're probably in a situation right now. If we called in with a $5 million party tomorrow, they wouldn't have the staff to be able to deal with it. So as everything has been broken down, everything now has to be built back again. And I think it's going to take a little bit longer to do, but I think we'll all do it smarter, and those who survive will come back stronger.
I'm sure. I think the collaboration is the best way forward, and working together as an industry is something we should all be looking further to.
I think dialogue between our communities is very, very important.
Yes. So one last question that I would want to ask you is, what is the best thing that you love about Indian weddings, having worked on the Jaipur wedding and a few other Indian weddings?
Listen, I love wherever there's excitement and it's fun. And I think Indian weddings are colorful and they're full of energy, and it goes on for 4 or 5 days and it's exhausting. And, I love pageantry and I love ritual. And I think, the Indian weddings are steeped in ritual, beginning to end. There's meaning behind all the different events and all the different ceremonies that take place. And, it's interesting because the cross-section of an Indian wedding versus a Western wedding is so completely different. The Indian weddings, go from 8 o'clock until 1 o'clock in the morning, right? And some people arrive at 9 and some people arrive at 10. They all arrive at different times. There's no assigned seating. It could be, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people. There's food stations and buffets all over the place. There's no agenda with speeches and the first dance. And so when you look at our weddings, our wedding starts at 6 p.m. Bride walks down the aisle at 6:15 p.m. Ceremony's over at 6:45 p.m. Okay, at 7:30 they have cocktails until then. Then they move in for dinner, and then there's the welcome speech, and then there's the grace, and then there's the first courses served, and there's that boom, 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 boom. And we pack into 6 hours what you pack into 5 days, and they could not be more opposite if they tried. But either way, I think there's nothing more fun than watching two people to come together and to celebrate with their family and their friends.
So you love the elaborated Indian wedding part of the Indian weddings, yeah?
Yes, because they're colorful and they're elaborate, and you can build anything and you can do anything. There's great imagination there. And I think there's some amazing, amazing wedding planners and wedding designers in India that I have tremendous respect for, that I've collaborated before, and they're also my friends.
Of course. So we have a few of the questions from the people watching us. So Ayush asks you, how do you see India as a wedding hub? And also, what do you think the impacts would on Royal Indian weddings be after the whole pandemic scene?
Well, I think the impact on these big royal weddings is going to be, no one's going to go back until such time as it's safe, right? Because if we go back to where we were and things spike again, it's going to get bad publicity for everybody. People are going to continue to get sick. Shreya, I don't have a crystal ball for any of this. And I thought I knew a little bit in March when this started. I think I know a whole lot less now, because every day there's a new curveball, there's a new form of the virus. This one might have a vaccine, this one might not have a vaccine yet. I think we're going to be in murky waters for a little bit longer before you have those big royal weddings that come back where we've got 2,000 people coming back at a time. We need to find a safe way. It's like so many people have said to me, what about destination weddings? Should we be going to the Maldives? Should we be going to the Caribbean? Those are all great places to go to. How are we going to get there? Because we know that 50% of the world's airlines are never going to fly again. So the idea of just jumping on a plane, we need to make sure that the airlines have proven to us that it's safe to get there, first of all. Right? So I think the destination weddings will come back, but I also think it's important to support our local economies. Our local economies have all been drained, with money being spent in all different areas that was never appropriated for in the first place. So support your local economies. The Maldives and the Bahamas are not going anywhere. They'll be there in 2 years' time.
True. He also asks you, sir, can you please share one of your wedding management experience back in India?
One of my management experiences that I learned in India?
That only one of your experiences you had in India.
Okay, so I had I was very fortunate. My very dear friend Vandana Mohan invited me to travel around India, and I had an incredible opportunity. And while I was there, I met potential clients, and we forged a relationship. And through Jai and Sonali, the Kore, ended up doing this fabulous wedding. We all collaborated on together. It was a very exciting opportunity for me because I'd never worked in India before. I loved the scale. I loved the fact that you could, draw on the back of an envelope, and 2 days later, there's the sofa, the exact same fabric that you mentioned it. So I would imagine the ability for me, what was exciting about India was the ability to build so much for such a reasonable price. I think your ability to manufacture and source is so much more efficient than anything we can do in the West, which gives you a lot more value for the dollar than what we have over here. So I think that the money goes further in India than what it goes over here.
Right.
And I think from a management experience, I would say probably the thing that I found the most challenging, I would say, would be like the timing of the event. Our timing is so incredibly strict, and yours is so incredibly loose. Right? It's a different hat that you're wearing.
I know, but I think we Indians, even if it comes to meetings or weddings, we have our time. Indian standard time is very different from the regular time.
Right. Yeah.
So yes. So there's one last question. How can we approach clients for making them comfortable with the idea of destination weddings?
I just spoke about that, and I think that the destination wedding will always be, an exciting opportunity to take a group of people outside of your hometown or your country or your city and go and do something meaningful where you spend quality time together. I think that is a trend that's been around for a long time since destination weddings became a big deal. It's not going to go away, but I think it's on hold for a long time. I don't know. First of all, you're asking people to get on an aeroplane that they're not comfortable doing yet. So we need to wait for the airlines to become safe. Secondly, a lot of people have been without jobs for the last 6-7 months, which means, do they have the money to go and fly and go to another city and spend 4 or 5 days in another city with 4 new outfits? So I think it will come back, but not for the next year or two.
Okay, so I think we are saying destination weddings would be back by the end of the 2021.
Yes, and it's the moment there's a vaccine, and the moment an airline has come to us and said, this is what we're going to do to make sure that it's safe for you to fly. Because if you think about it, all the luxury, I think, has been taken out of flying, and long distance travel will be a whole different story compared to what it used to be as it gets reinvented along the way. And also remember, you're not going to get the airlift that we used to have. So we could think, you could go onto a website and book an air ticket to be anywhere in the world in 24 hours, literally anywhere. But with 50% of the world's airlines no longer flying, okay, and of those 50% who are flying, they've given up 70% of the routes that they used to have. So the idea of just jumping on a plane and going somewhere is not going to be as easy as it used to be. It's going to be like 30 years ago when you knew that you could fly from London to Paris on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So I think our whole way of traveling is going to change as well.
True. I agree. I think I agree. So we have one more question from Navritu, and she asks, what niche environmental sustainability offerings would you implement in the weddings now?
I think, it's a whole different approach of what we need to do to prove to our clients, right, and their guests that we've created a safe environment for them to come back to, because without that, they're not going to come, right? So the idea of the temperature checking, getting all the waiters tested, making sure everyone's wearing gloves, making sure everyone's wearing masks. We're doing like the tray passed appetizers. We do them with a glass cover now. So that it's like a sneeze guard that gets lifted when you want to take something. The idea of doing food stations instead of buffets. I think all these, it's not one protocol, it's many things, and we have to do them all to be able to prove to the client that this is a safe environment to come back to. And people want to see, they want to see with their eyes that things are clean, that things are being sanitized the correct way. So I think a lot of it lies into our hands to come up with these protocols that will instill confidence, safety, and style.
Right. Okay, Colin, what will be your last closing statement for everyone watching us today?
Okay, so my closing statement is, I think that, we've gone through the shock, right? There was the virus. It was a global virus, okay? And from there, we went from the shock into quarantine. And we've been in quarantine for a very long time. Some people, there were curfews as well. And from country to country, it's been, somewhat different, but we've all been in lockdown. And this is the only time in the history of the world that I can remember where every single one of us have been faced with the exact same challenge and dilemmas, challenges and dilemma. So I think we also need to ask ourselves karmically, okay, and spiritually and accountably, why did this happen? Okay, and what is our role in this individually and collectively? And for me, I believe that we were running too fast. We were doing things way too fast. We squeezed way too many hours into the day. We pretended that there were 8 days in a week and 40 days in a month and 70 seconds in a minute. And we just squeezed everything in. And two things I believe that we've missed out on. Gratuity, or showing gratitude for all the things that we're blessed with. I think that's disappeared. and humility. I think a big dose of being humble will go a long way to like really stop, slow down, experience, enjoy. And I actually have really enjoyed being able to read, being able to cook, being able to draw and do the things that I never had time to do before. So my parting words are, as we start to reemerge, every one of us on this call is in the exact same place. It doesn't matter how big your business is or how small your business is. We've all gone through the same stress, right? And together we will get through this. We need to be here to support one another because we will get to the other side. But let's never forget that we need to take humility and gratuity with us. That was my party.
I think that was a lovely closing statement. And I think being grateful for everything that we have right now is the most important thing. Because there are a lot of people suffering from a lot of other things we don't know, and we are blessed with it.
So thank you for inviting me. I wish you tremendous luck as you continue to have stimulating conversations with the future guests. And to all of you out there, rest here. I know this is going to work out. Be strong. Do all the things we're supposed to do, and we will get to the other side. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Colin. And I'm so grateful you came to the episode, to the Candid Conversation, and I couldn't have been more grateful to you in the first place.
Thank you. Pleasure. Bye-bye.
Thank you.